Are you going to adapt it?
I think that it's a sure thing. That's what I'm going to put in the universe because I'm a powerful manifester.
Yes, good for you. Well, Viola Davis, welcome to One Nightstand.
Thank you.
I'm thrilled to have you here. We're going to talk about some of your favourite books today.
Okay.
Have you always been a big reader?
You know what? I have been.
Yeah.
I say that I have been, even though my sister Dolores, I think, tops me. Because, she was reading Wuthering Heights when she was probably 11.
Oh my gosh, I love that.
Yeah.
And what kind of books did you like reading?
When I was young, they totally were mysteries.
Oh, love, yeah.
I was like Bobbsey twins. And actually, I'm not going to lie, anything I could get my hands on, any escape I could find. But one of these books was the first book that really just blew my mind. I always say it brought me into consciousness.
Oh.
Was the Claude Brown book.
Let's talk about it.
Manchild in the Promised Land. That was it.
Tell me about, how old were you when you first read that
I don't
book?
know, 13,
Yeah.
14. I could not believe it.
Yeah.
I felt like, it's like that James Baldwin quote that says, people are trapped in history and history is trapped in them. I felt like I was catapulted into this Black man's life.
Yeah.
That was very similar to my life. And at the same time, I was learning so much about Black history in America. So it was a double whammy for me. And I remember every single time I just turned a page, I was catapulted to another time. And it was a world that no one had taught me about.
Yeah.
Although it was my world. And you know what? The thing about the book is you meet him as a young boy. By the end of the book, it is a completely transformed community and a completely transformed life.
Yeah.
And I was with him every step of the way,
And it's got the most incredible cast of characters between his friends, his family, and the way their paths keep overlapping when he's in like Wiltwyck and some of the other institutions.
Yes. And the women in the story,
Yeah.
who became prostitutes
I
and
know.
strung out. And, you see how their lives evolved. And you see, it's sort of like one of my favorite plays is Doll's House. That you see how culture and what's happening at the time affects humanity.
Yes.
And so that's what you see, when drugs are sort of, injected into Harlem and how it goes from this like vibrant Harlem Renaissance sort of time to just being just strung out ghetto.
Yeah. It's so sort of like painful in parts, and also watching his sort of relationships with his family members evolve through all the struggles. It's but it's quite incredible. I felt like breathless in parts of it because of how sort of tense it felt and how much you're rooting for him. Like when he moves out of Holland, but he's still so drawn, and he's like desperate to be there even though he knows he can't be there all the time.
Yes, exactly. And I found myself rooting for him.
Yeah.
I always feel that sort of the condition of a play, dramatic literature, and a book is what it asks you to do is hold my hand for the time period you're going to be with me. And that's all I want you to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm going to take you through this journey. And that's what I did with him. I was in it.
Yeah,
that
enraptured.
was the first book right there.
There's a moment in the book where Claude's mother, basically, he describes at one point maybe wanting to be, as a kid, he was like, I want to be a psychologist. And she was like, there's no way. And like when his brother's like, I want to be an airline pilot, she's like, and he says that her whole thinking was that you should aspire to just make $50 a week and be able to survive. Did you ever, when you were growing up, like reckon with people pushing back on your ambitions, or were you surrounded by people who were sort of supportive of you?
Both.
Yeah.
And I always say they both invite you into sort of your fate and your destiny, whichever hand you want to hold at any given time. I've certainly held both hands of people who said, you're ugly, you're never going to amount to anything, you're always going to be poor. And the other hands I held that said, anything you want.
Yeah.
And they both can be an inspiration in a way, if you put them in the right place.
Yeah.
And I think that my desperate need to get out probably made me migrate towards the people who were rooting for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I loved that section in your memoir where you talk about when you went to college and you were like, I desperately wanted to get out, and so I was going to be an English teacher, or like, or I was going to teach or something. And but then, you know, this need to do something different sort of bubbles up within you. And I think it's so hard to listen to yourself when those moments, because I mean, in a much smaller way, remember when I went to university, my parents be like, you're going to choose the job that's going to make you money safely, right? You're not going to make a risky choice because you sort of, it is hard to take those risks. And you feel that in this book as well, when Claude is like working different jobs and really trying to find his way and find not just a way to survive, but a way to exist in and live.
I think what served Claude in this book is, you know, I always quoting Denzel Washington, what serves him is when they say that ease is a greater threat to progress than hardship. And sometimes when you've had it really hard, when you're just born into a life that's already knocking you down, a world you don't fit into, you're just at the bottom. Sometimes that's a ripe ground for growth.
Yeah.
It is, because you have nothing else to hold on to but your inner voice. That's it. That's all you have. And so in a great way, and I think that Black Boy is very much like, that's, Richard Wright was it for me. I mean, when I say it, I mean his short stories, all of his books. He wrote, of course, Native Son.
Yes.
He's also an expatriate, expat of America. He just decided, I'm getting out of Mississippi. I'm getting out of the U.S. But he was everything for me, you know, when I started really reading.
It's an extraordinary book, that journey as well, and his journey from the South, and when he gets to Chicago and the confusion he feels in Chicago as well.
Yes, absolutely. That sort of search for yourself,
yes,
right?
Exactly.
Everything is in search of.
Yeah.
I've always been in search of. Sometimes you feel like you're going to be in search of until you roll into your grave.
Yeah.
But I think all the books I've ever loved is in search of.
Yeah.
A curiosity.
I also really liked that bit in Manchild in the Promised Land, where Claude talks about learning to play the piano, and he is with many white teachers who later, and his friends are later saying to him, like, no, they're like taking away your soul somehow, in the sense of like your ability to feel the music and play it in only the way that you can. And I think that's also such a beautiful like theme in this book of like not learning to bend necessarily just to the way that other people are doing it, but leaning into your own like superpower as well.
Well, it goes into August Wilson, Joe Turner's Come and Gone, which takes place, I think, 1910, post-Reconstruction United States. And you know, it's that saying from the play, which is, "You're shining, Harold Loomis. You're shining like new money."
Yeah.
This is a man who worked on the plantation, and then all of a sudden now he's been set free. He's looking for his wife, but he's looking for himself.
Yeah.
He's looking for his identity, his place in the world that is not defined by sort of white supremacy.
Yeah.
And he only finds it with this ritualistic thing that he does at the end of the play, which he slits his chest, which is a very African, ritual. And he just immerses himself in blood. And he, says, I'm standing now. I'm finally standing. And then he walks off. And that's when Bynum says, "You're shining, Harold Loomis. You're shining like new money," meaning you found your place in the world. That's what they're all finding. Manchild in the Promised Land. I mean, it's all in the title, right?
Yeah.
Manchild in a land that's supposed to be promised.
Yeah.
Something is promised to me that I'm not finding.
No.
No,
and the world isn't supported. I think there's a line in Black Boy where it talks about how I was living in a culture, not a civilization, that I thought really just like gets at, how oppressive that can be at points. Well, we obviously heard you say that line in particular during the awards show recently. Tell me about that experience. I mean, I know you've had a sort of crazy reaction to it since. Yeah,
I mean, first of all, it was my opportunity to say that because, and I wanted to say that because, Delroy Lindo, he, originated the role of Harold Loomis. But for me, it was so fitting first of all, it's my favorite play. Can I just say that? I love Joe Turner's Come and Gone. I thought it was a fitting statement for Michael B. Jordan, whose name I did not expect to see. I mean, on that, winner's card. And I see that when I see Michael B. Jordan.
Yeah.
I see this young man, this young black man who has found himself, Yeah.
I'm so rooting for him on Sunday.
I am too.
Are you going to be at the show?
No, I'm going to be home.
Oh, yeah.
Eating,
Yeah, good for
my
you.
beautiful home.
Yeah, watching on the sofa. That's what I'll be doing as well. But no, I can't. I'm very excited. I'm keeping everything crossed. I have listened to your memoir, and your recording of it is so incredible. And you do such a beautiful job of bringing it to life. When you did any of these books inspire your work in writing your memoir as well?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, I hadn't read All the Way to the River yet. And of course, my book is on there. But, oh, yeah, Black Boy, Color Purple. I mean, Manchild in the Promised Land. Absolutely. Because they're all extremely unfiltered honesty.
Yeah.
It is the only way to go in a memoir.
I agree.
Yeah.
Was there anything when you were working on your memoir that you took out or that you felt, I'm not able to go there right now? Or
Probably.
Yeah. No, I mean.
And I always say that the book is only 30% of who I am because what it does is it challenges memory.
Yes.
And the power of memory. What I've remembered and what I've processed is maybe 30% of it. That's it.
Yeah.
And then there are certain things that I'm not going to lie, I'm too ashamed of.
Yeah.
It's too much for me. There's certain things that I think would be too much of an indictment for other people.
Yeah.
And I don't think is mine to share. And then there's a lot of things that I remember wrong. I say that with that book, the first chapter and my mom absolutely were the most difficult.
Yeah. That first chapter is extraordinary. And I mean, I think I read in one of your speeches once you say memories have teeth. And I think that I thought that a lot when I was reading, because, and it starts with you talking about your experiences in therapy and how you've sort of processed. And I think a lot of what we end up doing in therapy is trying to sort of defang some of those experiences, which is easy, but also accept them.
Well, accept them. And I'm repeating myself. I always feel like my hair and makeup team said they keep hearing me say the same thing over and over again. But
we'll take it. We love hearing
good.
it.
They love me. But my big discovery lately is that, and I mean, I don't think it's my discovery, but in The Wizard of Oz, she's all those characters.
Yes.
She is the Wicked Witch.
Yeah.
She is the flying monkeys and the talking trees and all the obstacles that get in the way of us sort of finding home.
Yes.
Right? And she's also even the Good Witch.
Yeah.
That is showing a clear path, and the wizard that really doesn't exist and doesn't even have any powers. And she's also the Ruby Slippers.
Yeah.
And that's what I feel. That's me.
Yeah.
I mean, I've just always been in search of ...
Yeah.
There's no end to it. In search of.
Yeah.
And I find that the clearer I get and the more buoyant I get is just when I continue to share my story. My story takes me where I need to be.
Yeah.
My story is home. Yeah.
Yeah, that's incredible. Maybe we should talk about Black Boy by Richard Wright next.
Yeah,
which is an incredible book.
My
I finished it last night and just was blown away, honestly, but the whole section about his experience in the Communist Party and everything, it felt so different to what had gone before, but I was like, this is fascinating.
Yes.
But tell me about your love of this book.
Once again, it's honest. And I'm trying to remember it now because when I read it, I was, I had to take a breath. And this has been a long time since I read it because I think there's a part where it's like a dead animal is hanging.
Oh, the cat.
And the part I also remember is him walking home from school with a female friend. I don't know why this one sticks out at me. And they're walking home from school, and then this white man who's in town, and this is his autobiography, then starts sort of sexually harassing her and touching her and then pulls her into like sort of an alleyway. And she just finally tells Richard, just go home. Go home, Richard. I'll be okay. Just go home. And the guy just and you know she is going to be sexually assaulted. It's sort of this portrait of America that is renegade. That is the different side that we don't see.
Yeah.
Maybe we see, but is very much a part of our truth.
Yes.
But rears its ugly head in someone's personal biography. So it doesn't just become a story about his life. It becomes an indictment on us.
Yes.
Like Manchild in the Promised Land. And I think that's why it just blew my mind. And then I think it ends with him on a plane.
Yes.
Going to Paris or something and saying, I have to escape.
Yeah.
Sort of separating himself from what he probably thought was home, which is America. And I just thought it was a full scope, absolute panoramic story of a person's life.
Yeah.
And
it's incredible. And even from the early chapters, which deal so much with his sort of the food scarcity and the sort of the mom and the difficult home environments and how faith and the church was a sort of difficult thing for him to reckon with. And then when he gets to Chicago, I was so like willing and for things to sort of get easier. But I wrote down this line where it said, I'd fled men who did not like the color of my skin, and now I was among men who did not like the tone of my thoughts. And I was like, oof, that is, that when you often escape one world, you end up in another one. And I think that's very relatable to people, it not being what you expect it to be, and then suddenly you're challenged in another way.
Absolutely. And, Joseph Campbell talks about, the journey of a hero, when you have to answer the call to adventure and, you go through the journey with mentors, allies, foes, slaying dragons. But he always talks about this point in the journey, which is your inmost cave. If Richard Wright were alive, I would love to sit with him or whatever and ask him what that inmost cave was. I wonder if he ever got there, because that inmost cave where Don Quixote got to, where you go into that cave, this is the final part of the journey. And you think it's right when you think you're going to lose your life.
Yeah.
You're going to die. So you have to go to that part where the final sort of dragon slaying is not slaying a god, a demon, but just slaying yourself.
Yeah.
And I wonder how much of Richard Wright he slayed. Because what happens, I feel like what this book was about, it's interesting, he said it's named Black Boy, is sort of, I'm trying to find a better word than re-education.
Yeah.
Re-education seems very academic. But a liberation.
Yes, yeah.
A liberation from what you've been taught you are.
Yeah.
I'm not necessarily sure he got there.
Yeah.
Someone says love plus accountability equals liberation. I feel that sometimes the weight of being Black in America, the stigma of it, you could stigmatize yourself so much that stigma has a heavy, heavy weight. It permeates everything, right? It permeates your intelligence. It permeates your beauty. It permeates your sense of self. It squelches your voice. And so to be able to sort of bust out of that and swim through it and develop your own consciousness about who you are is a hero's journey.
Totally. Yeah.
Okay. I don't know if most people get there. I felt an incredible compassion towards him, because what was it? He was born in 1912 or 19? Yeah. About that. I mean, my God.
I know.
That is post-Reconstruction.
Yeah.
So that is a heavy weight. That's when you couldn't inherit any property.
Yeah.
You were 3/5 of a human being. You were, in terms of education, in terms of everything and health and all of that, you were a Black boy. That's it.
Yeah.
You didn't even have a name. Yeah.
Gosh, yeah. I mean, when he gets to Chicago and he joins one of the clubs, he talks about finally feeling like he's surrounded by people who he can like move forward with in his life, which is a lovely. Have there been any particular people in the industry who have been that for you? Like when you went to Juilliard and then you started, I think your first Broadway play was in 1996, was it?
1996.
Something like that. I've got it written down somewhere.
I've got a long career.
I know.
Everything.
Yeah. But were there any people for you in particular that you, after growing up, going to university and then starting work, that you were like, oh, I found my people?
Oh, 50 million trillion, one of them.
Well, that's great.
Yeah, Ron Stetson, Neighborhood Playhouse. He was my first acting teacher in Rhode Island.
Yeah.
I don't know, George C. Wolfe. We could keep going on. Woody King, Negro Ensemble Theater. Lloyd Richards.
Yeah.
August Wilson.
Yeah.
Israel Hicks. He directed me in Joe Turner's Come and Gone. That was the production that got me my equity card. But I could keep going on and on and on. In the theaters that I went to, the Goodman Theater, ACT in San Francisco, Mark Taper Forum. What happens when you want to get out, whatever getting out means, getting out is a very combustible term. You hold on to every rope that is thrown at you, even if it's a rope that gets you from point A to point A plus.
Yes. Yeah.
And it could be a theater, it could be in a person, it could be in teachers like Doc Hutchinson. He was one of my mentors. Yeah. I mean, it's just a lot of people. Yeah.
When I was reading Black Boy, I felt so, I kind of, I wanted to prod around the relationship with his brother, because it's there, but we don't talk about it we just know that it's not an easy relationship, perhaps. But I was so struck listening to your memoir and in reading Judge Stone, the sisters dynamics. I'm one of three girls as well. So I love the sister vibe, but tell me about I imagine was that something that you were really keen to be a part of, the Judge Stone story, the sisterhood element?
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, my sisters were my tribe.
Yeah.
I think I say that in the book.
Yeah.
I mean, it takes a village.
Yes.
It does. You can't go it alone. I can't imagine if I had to go it alone.
No.
Like my sister Anita, she was a fighter. She grew her nails to be a better fighter. And she was a good fighter, by the way. She took down a girl who knew jujitsu back in the day. I was like, really, Anita? Back in the day, you should have seen it. If you were there, you would have been cheering too. But and then my sister Diane, who was incredibly intelligent, and my sister Dolores, who was incredibly intelligent but very mischievous. I like mischievous people.
Yeah,
I like people who buck the system, and people who dare to go out there and, and use their voice.
Yeah.
I mean, all of us were that person. And I needed all of them to sort of get me out.
Yes. Yeah. And I love that line in Judge Stone when everything is sort of unraveling towards the end. And I think it's shortly after her house is blown up on the farm. Yep. And she goes, when she's with her sister, she just finally goes, I'm tired of being strong. And that really felt like this exhale in the way that you only can with sisters.
Yes. Me and James Patterson worked on that.
Oh, really?
We did. We worked on that. I said, James, let me tell you something. As a Black woman, he was like, well, okay, let's work on that. I said, I can guess that Judge Stone is tired of being strong. Yeah.
Good. What was that creative process like with you and James? How did you work together on it?
We just worked together. I was surprised every time I would call him. I always say I would call him while I was driving, go to soccer practice, or pick up my daughter from soccer.
I love the idea of you being in soccer team.
It's like, let me pass this by you, James. Okay, just keep an open mind.
Yeah.
And he always had an open mind.
Yeah.
I was shocked. Sometimes I said, okay, I'm going to have to really explain this to him because he's a dude, I'm a woman, and I never had to work that hard. He was always open. A lot of it took place by phone.
Yeah.
And a lot of it took place by email and text messages, especially with Nova.
Oh my gosh.
Especially with her.
It's a beautiful character, and the moments in the courtroom between the two of them where she's like those moments of connection between just those two felt so magical and special.
You know what people forget about children? That they can deal with things in the abstract.
Yeah.
That they're whole, but they're not adults yet.
Yeah.
We're in finishing school. We sort of, right? We understand how to be in a relationship. We understand the paradoxes of life. We understand that life could be joyous at time and really horrific. They don't get that yet.
No.
And so a lot of times when you see children being played out in books, they just become an extension of sort of the adult's imagination of what a child is, or the adult is trying to write the child that they believed they were, which is, no.
No, you can't.
It's like nostalgia, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It's a story you tell yourself about what happened in the past instead of keeping them where they are. I mean, there's one part where, you know, me and James, she was thinking about eating McDonald's or something in one scene. And I said, can I invite you, James, that maybe she's thinking about nothing. You know, that nothingness that comes after a traumatic event, especially after rape, with the body disassociates. And so in order to hold the pain, you're always separating. I know I was all the time, always separating. So sometimes I wasn't even there. I was just a shell of a person. That can be powerful.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Yeah, I completely agree.
Nothing.
Yeah. That's extraordinary. I mean, I thought the characters were so beautiful and so interesting, and I loved those moments of sisterhood, and that moment when I think when Mary takes a drink, some of one of the others' Coke, and there's this comment about like, oh, when you grow up with sisters, I didn't even have my own can of cola until I went to college, and I was like, correct, nothing to your own.
No.
Are your sisters still that for you? Your sort of like support network?
Well, you know, we're older now.
Yeah, it's different.
Now, I will say they're my support network because it's like I know they love me.
Yeah.
You know, even when they're not around.
Yeah.
You know, I know even if they do something to make me mad, I still know that they love me. How many people do you know? If they make you mad, if they say something salacious, it's like, they're not going to be in my life anymore. Blah, 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 blah. But you know, your sisters are good people.
Always, always. Well, let's move on to The Color Purple, an incredible book.
God.
Tell me about, how old were you when you first read it? Because it came out when you were a teenager, right?
Yes.
I was looking.
It came out in early 80s,
yes,
right?
Yeah. I think you said, when I researched, I think you would have been about 16, 17.
Oh my God. And the fact that they were diary entries.
Yes.
You know, that was my monologue that I would use to get into everything. Circle in the Square Theater, Juilliard. But
which part, if you don't mind me asking, was it
the first two entries?
The first two entries.
And the entry, I mean, I don't know if I could say this salacious word. It's
Go for it,
but the part that completely destroyed me, the second part, when she doesn't even know she's pregnant, and she says the word pussy. She's like, that baby came out of my pussy, sucking on his fist, and I was in shock.
Yeah.
That, I mean, gutted me.
Yeah.
And then she's just talking, and then she's like, my father took it.
Yeah.
Took it, the baby. But the thing that struck me about that book, because I always use the Stevie Wonder line of show me, it starts the book. Alice Walker starts a book with a quote, show me how to do what you do. Show me how to do it. It took me the longest time to realize. I was like, why are you starting out with a Stevie Wonder quote? And then when it hit me, it hit me so, because you have to show someone sometimes how to live.
Yes. Yeah.
And that's what Shug Avery did with her, showed her how to love herself.
Yeah.
Showed her how to see herself. And then when she finally did, oh my God, the power, what she was able to slay through that entire story. And, you know, I saw myself in Miss Seeley, you know, and beautiful final line, you know, I may be black and I may be ugly, but I'm here. You know, that book was everything. I feel, for me, I think that book is one of the most important books that's out there for it's. I mean, I'm sure for women in general, for people in general, for me as a dark-skinned Black woman, it was everything.
Yeah. Were you a fan of the movie when that came out as well? Did you see it as it came out? Because I mean, you were at college at the time, right?
I was in the movie theater.
And you were, and was it?
You know, because first of all, I'm a Whoopi Goldberg connoisseur. Everything she did, I was there. And by the way, I have not told her that yet. Every time, I think I held her hand the other day when I was at the View, and I was like, Viola, you could actually say this to Whoopi, but I didn't. I loved everything that she was in because I see myself in her.
Yeah.
But yes, I saw the movie.
Yeah.
When she's reunited with their children. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Yes, the whole movie. Yes.
So it's an incredible like adaptation, and just I remember watching it when I was younger and being just mind blown in every way.
Yeah.
It's incredible. Are you a sort of like journaler or letter writer or as in your own life?
Sometimes I am, and then I'm not.
Yes.
I write, and then I stop. And it always is helpful when I journal.
Same.
You know, but it's always helpful when I'm brave when I journal.
Yes, yeah.
But if I journal and I'm thinking someone's going to see this, then it's screwy. But
yeah. It's hard though, isn't it? It's hard. But I think that's one of the things the book, there's those moments where she's writing to God or whatever. It's just this like radical, you really see the evolution of someone's entire thought process and like self-belief, and
absolutely,
it's an extraordinary thing. Is that a book that you would go back and reread, or is it one that you sort of just had your first experience reading?
I reread it once.
Yeah.
And then I think I reread, I'm in the process of rereading Manchild in the Promised Land. The reason is I get nostalgic. I'm trying to remember who I was when I read the book.
Yeah, I completely relate to that. I recently reread Pride and Prejudice, and I was trying to like recapture that feeling of being like 15 and just being like,
oh man,
there's nothing like it as that, and there's nothing like how it. You know, I like buying books for people and telling them. I mean, are you someone who likes gifting people books to read, or?
I don't think I'm so great at that. I think I'm better with going to the bookstore with my daughter.
Oh, I love that.
And her tastes in books are just...
What's she reading?
I mean, right now she's reading The Stranger, Albert Camus, because it's for school, and she really likes it.
Oh, cool.
She's like, you know what, Mama? I really like this.
Oh, good.
But yeah, her taste, and her mind, I love getting in there. Yeah. It's like, it's because it's a young mind.
Totally.
And it's a young mind in 2026. So how it hits her is totally different. You know?
Yeah. I read that you read all the Twilight books with your niece.
I do. You know what? I do that. I'm not going to lie. Because I love young people. Yeah. She's a PhD student. I'm going to say that, okay? She's a PhD student, but she's like, Auntie, you know, these books. And I said, okay, I'm going to read them because I want to connect with her. Yeah. I couldn't believe it. I think I finished them in like a week and a half.
They're so fun.
They are. Oh, my God.
Right.
Oh, my. And Harry Potter books, read them all twice.
Oh, they're so good. I had Daniel Radcliffe on last week.
Because my niece Annabella. Yeah. My niece Annabella.
I love that. Have they got you reading Heated Rivalry yet? Any of your like nieces or anything? Have you had?
Oh, is that the next one?
Oh, Heated. Well, it's the TV show that's been adapted. Have you seen it? Everyone's talking about.
I haven't seen it. I'm going to be pushed into it.
Well, it's like a queer hockey show where these two.
Oh, yes.
Mm-hmm. It's incredible. But I like, that's not the kind of book that I would normally read, but I read it because everyone was talking about it, and I was like, this is just such a joyful experience. So to like.
But I have to tell you.
Go on.
I also like the historical fiction, nonfiction. Margaret George.
Oh, yeah?
She writes Cleopatra. She wrote Mary Magdalene. They're like 1,200 pages. I love.
Oh.
They're historical. They're grand, sweeping.
Yes.
Camels and tents and oh my God, they're fantastic.
Yeah, I agree. It's the best escapism. There's nothing like it. I mean, obviously I love watching movies and TV shows as well, but there's something about my brain unlocks in a different way with books.
You know, and that's something that I wanted to create with Judge Stone.
Yeah.
I did. I just wanted to create something that for the 432 pages, I think it's 432 pages, that you're going to get lost in Union Springs.
Oh,
that you will be a member of that community for 432 pages.
You feel it. You pull it off. It's a brilliant. I mean, are you going to adapt it?
I think that it's a sure thing. That's what I'm going to put in the universe because I'm a powerful manifestor.
Yes, good for you. Because the whole time I wanted to see you patrolling around that courtroom, like getting out of your seat. And I love that bit where she points to the door, telling us to get out with all her like gown draping down. I was like, oh, I need to see it. Yeah. It's but no, it is so immersive, that world, and you know, with the. I think the twist at the end where, you know, the jury go votes. I was shocked. I mean, but I think it's such a journey and on such a divisive topic, but I mean, you'll handle it so brilliantly.
Thank you.
It's a brilliant read. Well, your final book is All the Way to the River by Elizabeth Gilbert. Tell me about your love of this book.
Oh my God. I read it when I had to DM her. I said, let me tell you something, Elizabeth. I read it while I was flying to Paris to do a L'Oreal event. I could not put that book down. You know what I feel that she has? Extremely rare. First of all, well, a few things. She has an immense curiosity about herself, but an immense bravery to embrace the parts of herself that would be considered extremely ugly.
Yes.
And once again, it goes back to what I was saying about Richard Wright of going to that inmost cave. I'm looking at that going, I don't know if I can do that. I really don't. And I think that it's interesting that she named it All the Way to the River because, you know, her friend, of course, is saying there's those friends that are all the way to the river friends. I think I have all the way to the river friends. But also... you have to be all the way to the river friend to yourself.
Yes.
All the way. Complete.
Yeah.
Until you get to the river. That's what I got from there. I got a complete healing journey, and I thought that I got it with Eat, Pray, Love, and now it's like this part of the journey. And it stimulated something in me. It really did.
Yeah. And the way it sort of talks about active addiction and living with someone who's experiencing that is, I thought, so brave and interesting, really.
Yeah. There's a few things I took from that book that I was like, oh man, you know, truth is hard.
Yes.
That's why sometimes you need it in small doses.
Totally.
But that we don't always die beautifully.
Yeah. Yeah.
And just because you made straight A's and you graduated from school and now you're going to college doesn't mean you're ready to be independent.
No,
And also, how important it is to heal.
Yeah.
And a lot of us don't because healing hurts.
I always say that about therapy to people when I've had some like pretty bad episodes when I was younger, and I will always tell my friends if they're going into it that it will often maybe get worse before it gets better. I think like because you develop these coping mechanisms, many of them which are unhealthy and are keeping you at like 60% instead of being able to exceed beyond that. And then when you take them away, you drop before you rise again.
Absolutely.
And it's hard, and you have to have that like willingness to sit in it, and it's difficult.
But you hold on to it because it's keeping you alive. Even if it keeps you miserable, it's still...
Yeah. Are you a therapy person?
Totally.
Yeah. Have you always been, or did you get into it later?
Oh, no, I got into it later in life, 28, 29.
Yeah.
You know, when I could afford it.
Well, quite. Exactly. I know. I mean, I remember asking my parents when I was at university and really not well. I was like, I really think I should see a therapist. And they're like, how? But who's paying for that? And I was like, fair enough. Yeah, we can't afford it.
Yeah.
It's a real, it's a real thing.
It's expense.
It is. But it's such a like healthy, a sort of, it is an incredible resource to have at your disposal. With that book, are you like a binge reader in that you'll like gobble things up in a couple of days like you did with
Sometimes.
Elizabeth? Yeah.
Yep. Sometimes I just gobble it up.
Yeah.
I do.
Are you ever do you ever put a book down halfway through, or are you more likely to keep going?
Oh, no. I have put books down halfway through that have made me so mad.
Oh, really?
Oh, my God. Which I will never mention because I don't want to. But some of them, I'm like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
You know.
With Judge Stone, I loved the mixture of setting of like the small town and then the farm. Would you ever see yourself living in like a small town environment, or do you much prefer cities?
You know what? I always say, I'm a city girl because I'm a New Yorker. I like small towns.
Yeah.
I do. I came from a small town, Central Falls.
Yeah.
I remember I shot a movie called Nights in Rodanthe with Diane Lane, Richard Gere, and I was in a small town for like 2-3 weeks in North Carolina, and I loved it.
Yeah.
I would go to the Y every day. I like lived in a bed and breakfast. I would take myself out to eat. You know what? I feel a sense of belonging in a small town. I
Interesting.
do. And a connection, yeah.
Do you ever go back to Central Falls?
Oh, all the time.
Oh, really? Just sort of family
all
there?
The time.
Yeah.
And me and my husband, we have our foundation there, the Davis Tennant Foundation. And my family, they're still there. My mom, who's in advanced dementia, she's still in, well, she sort of lives right on the line of Central Falls, Cumberland. But yes, absolutely.
And do you like going back? Or does it feel hard? Or
if all of it.
All of it. It's exactly how I know exactly what you mean.
All of it. I just, and of course, I'm always driving back going, Julius, this is where I went to school. This is where I would walk from school to the library. And then I would walk, this is Jenks Park. This is, and he's like, okay, V, okay.
But it's such a complex thing. I feel the same whenever I go back to the UK. I feel, places hold such history, and you feel all the full gamut of emotions when you're in them. But it can be lovely as well.
It could be. Once again, memory has teeth.
Memory has teeth. I just thought that was so brilliantly put. And I just loved that moment, that bit at the end of the first chapter of your memoir when the therapist sort of says to you, like, that girl did great. And like in that, and she like, because that's something that exactly my therapist has said to me at points as well. And I think it's such a hard concept to grasp, but such a beautiful one.
Yeah, it's where I got the line for, where we got the line for Nova, me and James Patterson, which is my favorite line in the book when she talks about her rapist. And you could tell the shame, of course, is there. And she says, they told me I was beautiful.
Yeah.
It's interesting how we look for places where someone sees us.
Yes. Yeah.
In a way that we can't see ourselves, even if it's coming from a place of just not even authenticity, that we grab a hold of it, right? You know?
Yeah. It's beautiful. Well, thank you so much for this. I loved reading your books. I had the best weekend getting through them, and everyone, I thought Judge Stone was so brilliant, and I cannot wait to see the adaptation of it. That's hopefully coming. Let's manifest it.
Oh, we manifest it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.